you guys know, and you guys have been paying attention to the news, and I know that a lot of the news pundits have been talking about how the Democrats lost this week's midterm elections. And I wrote about it this week in my column on the News Hipster's webpage on LiveJournal. So basically what I've told people is that there are people who have been trying to suppress the vote, and they've been doing it in different places all over the country. They've been doing it in Texas, they've been doing it in North Carolina, they've been doing it in Florida. And basically these people are the ones who go and scream and say, oh, you know, there's voter fraud, there's all kinds of things going on, and we need to, you know, do something about all of this, you know, madness. And I think people don't realize that it's not really a voter fraud problem. There's only like a very small percentage of people that may commit voter fraud around the country. But apparently the Republicans think that, you know, that's a big problem, so they enter all these voter suppression laws. But what we really know that what this is that's a way for them to suppress the black vote and the minority vote and the young vote, because they know that those people are the people that would normally vote Democrat. So what needs to happen, and I think that we learned a big lesson this week in the midterms, is that the Democrats misunderstood what the Republicans were trying to do. Republicans used Obama to actually against them. They used Obama against them in a very good way. They said that they're tired, everything that's going on right now is all Obama's fault and everything. The Democrats ran away from Obama, even though Obama was the person who actually has a pretty good winning streak when it comes to winning elections. You know, he's 2 for 2, you know, 2008, 20, and 2012. I think that the Democrats running away from Obama was a big mistake, and I think that they're gonna learn a big lesson out of this. They need to start paying more attention to the midterm elections, because the midterm elections is where the GOP usually does its most damage. Hopefully, they will learn a lesson out of this. But here's the one thing that needs to start happening. We need to start taking a new approach to how we do voting. I've always said that there needs to be some reform on how we do voting in this country. Somehow we have not figured out how to get away from certain archaic voting ways. Like maybe if you go to a certain state in the South, maybe they still use the paper ballots where they have that hanging chads. Remember that from Florida back in 2000? And you know, some have the electronic booths, some have the, you know, where you would just press a button or whatever. There are different ways of voting, and it seems that there's always an issue when it comes down to voting. The booths somehow are incorrect, somehow the votes don't get counted correctly, there's always recounts, there's all kinds of things that go on. And I wonder if we're ever going to figure out that we need to change the way we do voting. I've always said that the one thing that I think we could do is to redefine and reform our voting process and streamline it to where it's universal across the country, where every precinct is actually going to vote the same exact way, and they actually have the exact same voting methods and voting procedures. Now, my one thing, and here's what I've always said: why aren't we using the one thing that everybody has sacred to them, their Social Security number? Your Social Security number is the most unique thing you have that is personal to you. And one thing that I would say that would probably solve the voter fraud problem, I would say, is if you could find a way to decentralize everybody to be able to put in their Social Security number into a centralized universal program or method or whatever. The government can come up with this. Looks like you would do with your taxes and everything. In your Social Security number into the system, and then they send you a PIN number back in the mail. And then everybody gets one vote, because your Social Security is your Social Security number. I know if you definitely don't want anybody knowing anything about you, you keep your Social Security Social Security number sacred. So why aren't we using that as maybe a step to try to fix our voting problem? Everybody enter a Social Security number in, your Social Security number, and nobody else, and it only goes into the system one time. And if somebody else voted a different way, then they voted a different way, but then you can keep an actual record of how you voted. So when you go into the system, you enter your Social Security number, and you can see who you voted for based off your Social Security number, and it cannot be changed. And it can't be voted for because you know exactly who you voted for. And then the votes can be tallied tallied correctly, and there wouldn't be a problem. That's the way I think. But you know, that makes sense. And I don't think that people know how to make sense in Washington or anywhere else. But anyway, that's my viewpoint. And I hope you learned something today. Thank you for joining in, and thank you for tuning in to the new Hipster. I'm Rico Mikres Smith, and we'll see you next week.